So the next property that deals with square roots is we want to look at this property called the quotient property, which deals with that if I'm taking the square root of a fraction, like a over b, what the quotient property states is I can take the square root of the top over the square root of the bottom. So let's just look at some simple examples. So like if I have the square root of 25 over 16, the quotient property allows me to take the square root of the 25 and the square root of the 16, which means I get 5 over 4. Or look here, I could take the square root of 15 over the square root of 64. Well, because 15 doesn't break down at all, I know that it's going to be square root of 15 over 8. So let's get into some slightly more complicated questions. Like here, I have square root of 32 over 25, so I can take the square root of 32 over the square root of 25. Well, what do I know about 25? I know square root of 25 is 5. Now, I do need to simplify square root of 32, so like we did before, if I look at the square root of 32, that is 16 times 2, and I get 4 times 4 times 2. So because I have a pair of 4s, that means I can take one out, so that's the same thing as saying 4 square root of 2 over 5. Or I could look at this example right here, square root of 27 over the square root of 100. Well, I know that's going to be 10 because I know the square root of 100 is 10. But does 27 break down? 27 is 9 and 3, 3 and 3 and 3. So I have a pair of 3, so it's the same thing as saying 3 square root of 3 over 10. So let's look at another example here. Well, I have square root of 7 over 2. Well, neither of those break down. But I cannot have a square root in the denominator, so what I have to do is I have to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 2. The reason why that happens is because I know that I end up on the bottom using the product property, the square root of 2 times 2, and then I end up with the square root of 7 times 2. So right now I have the square root of 14 over the square root of 4, which means I end up with square root of 14 over 2. Well, let's look at this example here. I know I can rewrite this as the square root of 9 over the square root of 7. Well, I can't have a square root on the bottom, so I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 7. So right now I got the square root of 9 times 7 over the square root of 7 times 7, which I know in the denominator is going to make a 7. And then on the top, I know the square root of 9 is 3, so I have 3 square root of 7 over 7. So let's look at these examples here. Well, I have the square root of 15 and the square root of 11. So I'm going to multiply both the top and bottom by square root of 15. So I know in the bottom I have 15, and 11 times 15 is 165. So I end up with the square root of 165 over 15. So let's look at this example here. So I have the square root of 17 over the square root of 18. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 18. So right now I know that I have 18 in the denominator. And then I just have to break down 17 times 18. So I have 17 times 9 times 2, which is 3 times 3 times 2 times 17, which means I have a pair of 3, so I have the 3 square root of 34 over 18. And because both the 3 and the 18 are outside of the radical sign, I can simplify it. 3 goes into 18 6 times, so I have the square root of 34 over 6. I encourage you to try some examples, and we will see each other tomorrow.